What is it? What is it with the transgender thing, huh? Why won't it go away? Well, what is it about it that makes the left go completely insane? Even though right now the culture is moving against transgenderism. Have you seen it? Like corporations, everything, ditching trans, DEI, ESG. The Democrat lawmakers cannot let it go away. It's almost like it's an idol, huh? Colorado Democrats are attempting to push the Transgender Bill of Rights to completely eradicate parental rights in Colorado, in the name of protecting trans kids. Parents, you must understand what's going on in politics because it directly affects your children. It's wake up time. We'll get into it all. Give us a rating and review to help us reach more people. We really appreciate it. If you got that iPhone, I don't know if Spotify really allows ratings. Go check it out. I'm not sure. But iTunes, Purple podcast app on the iPhone. Give us 5 stars at the Seth Gruber Show. Leave a little rating. It really helps us reach more people. And subscribe at Rumble in case YouTube ever axes the show. Okay, Rumble's where free speech lives. We want to grow the show there. We appreciate it. And go to the whiterose.life. The whiterose.life to join the White Rose Resistance. We need your help. You guys know we have a White Rose app. And if you join as an ally at $35 a month, or $70 a month as air support, you can log into the White Rose app and have full access to curriculum, courses, training, live calls. It's really cool. It's really cool. You can join for free, but then to access all of our training, which, yes, it does take money to develop, and you're a part of that, we're mobilizing and pouring back into the body of Christ to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be the bulwark against evil that's targeting our children, the babies, and the complete transformation of the family as we know it. Go to the whiterose.life, $35 a month as an ally. You get your battle box in the mail. And $70 a month, you join our book club. And you can watch all the old book club conversations, but then we'll tell you what we're reading and you join us live on Zoom to talk about it. We give you about 6-7 weeks to read the book and hang out with me on Zoom. It's super fun. Let's get into it. This is The Seth Gruber Show. The trans your kids ideology, okay, its whole revolution and movement, guess what? It will not go gently into that good night, okay? This is so important. Like, okay, Trump wins, Skamala Jezebel Harris falls out of her tower. Okay, good. Yay, woo! We can withhold a lot more evil when we would have been withholding zero evil had we gotten Jezebel Harris, okay? But it is such a miscalculation for a lot of conservatives right now who are making this mistake of woo, like we're winning, the left, we've crushed them, America's healing, And you'll notice this historically, that Republicans tend to gain the most seats in the House and in the Senate when there's a Democrat in the White House. And to gain less seats when they have a Republican in the White House. It happens with both political parties. It's very frustrating. I think it's part of human nature, unfortunately, to sort of ease off the gas or not fight as hard, which we didn't used to have to fight as hard on some of these issues 100 years ago, 120 years ago in America, when there was broad agreement and alignment on core familial issues. But now there isn't. And now we have to fight so much harder for freedoms, for liberties, like Reagan said, like America is the last best hope of man on earth. On earth. Okay. America's not the best hope for eternal salvation or our hearts, but he said the last best hope for man on earth while we're here. Right, as goes America, so goes the world. Like if America falls, goodbye Western civilization, everything's screwed. Although I don't know, some of the Italians right now under Giorgia Meloni is looking pretty attractive. They're really making woke die over there. The point being is that we have to fight so much harder for these basic issues now than we used to have to. Okay, and with Trump in the White House and holding back a ton of wickedness, guess what happens? Do you think the left gets? You think they get kind of lazy, kind of chilling, like they're so discouraged at losing that they just go home and Netflix and chill? No, what tends to happen is the Democrats, okay, they'll gain more blue seats over the next 2 years. That's what generally happens, okay? Because conservatives, we just kind of go, hey, we got our guy in the White House. We made a huge victory, and we kind of ease off, right? In terms of the amount of funding, the gusto, the energy, the passion, the leave it all on the field to gain political power to withhold wickedness. So all of that to say, Colorado has lost its freaking mind, okay? I don't know if it's the Haitian oregano and the devil's lettuce over there. I don't know what it is. But what they are pushing through right now, what will likely be going to the governor's desk here very soon, is horrifically frightening. And don't you think that the fight over transgenderism and the transing and sexualizing of your kids is over just because we have a mean tweeting orange man that's a threat to the LGBTQ movement? Well, parts of it, right? I guess the GOP is super G. Is super G in the LGB. I guess they're G and B. I guess they're LGB, but not T. I don't know how you can be pro. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Okay, the GOP's gone super pro gay marriage. So I don't know how they expect to suddenly draw a line and say, but don't add the T. No, the alphabet mafia they want it all. They want dominion over everything, okay? Okay, anyways, with our guy, quote unquote, in the White House, is the world healing? Is the left going to go drown and bury themselves? And are your children no longer going to be targeted by radical ideologies? Nope. Like a wounded dog, they become that much more dangerous because of the wound. Colorado legislature just is pushing through House Bill 251312, that's 251312, that would categorize, okay, check this out. This is like Orwellian insanity, okay? You're going to be like, no, that's something that they do in Australia, okay? Would categorize deadnaming as child abuse. Deadnaming as child abuse. Do you know what deadnaming means? I mean, if you listen to this show, you're a very high information citizen and voter, so you probably do. But for those who don't, deadnaming is when you call your kid or a child, wait for it, their name. It's when you call your kid by their name and a pronoun that identifies with the gender that they really are, but they don't identify that way anymore, so they don't like that you're calling them that because the old them is dead, and behold, all things have become trans new. And so if you call them that, you're calling them by their dead name. Have you noticed like how theological the left is? I mean, it's crooked and depraved and wicked. Okay, it's false religion, but like notice this about leftism, please, okay, or secular humanism or whatever, that they can't help but reinvent the world with Christian-ish themes and lingo. They can't help but use quasi-religious language to try to express their paganism. Why? Because all human conflict is ultimately theological, because eternity is written on the heart of man, because Satan has no original ideas. All he can do is invert, pervert, copycat, right? It's like that. It kind of looks like a thing that reminds me of Christianity, but it's all weird and twisted now. Like, that's because the enemy, he actually can't create. Theologically, he can't create anything. He can just pervert and twist that which already exists. You think it's a coincidence that the transgender movement, who believes in 140, 270, I can't keep track, genders, uses the Christian-ish language of the old me is dead to express their neo-paganism? No, that's not a coincidence, okay? It's because, like, as all human beings, they're longing for eternal truths. They're longing for a new life. They're longing to be baptized and have the old self die to become a new identity. They're longing for what the gospel already provides, but because they're trying to do it man's way, they end up using the same semi-quasi-religious language that we use in Christendom to express the Keynesian, Ishtar, Asherah poles, transgender worship religion, which is, you're dead naming me. That's my old dead name. Have you thought about that? How strange, huh? How coincidental or how providential that human beings can't help but function religiously. So in Colorado, if Governor Jared Polis, who by the way is gay, he's married to a gay dude, they're in a gay marriage. Well, that's not a thing. There's no such thing as gay marriage, but okay, would now say if you want to know what this would actually be? Here's what the language of the bill says. It would direct courts to consider deadnaming, misgendering, or threatening to publish material related to an individual's sex change services as type of coercive control. Guys, join me at The Last Stand in Downey, California on June 21st, 2025. TheLastStand.com. We have David Harris Jr., Alex Clark, Riley Gaines, Heidi St. John, Victor Marks, Jaco Booyens, Pastor Jack Hibbs, and so many more. Come experience bold worship, powerful speakers, and fellowship, right? We have to encourage one another. We have to be unified with the body of Christ standing against the spirit of the age and his acolytes in the culture of death that are seeking to fundamentally transform the family, kill the babies, and trans the kids, okay? Join us with thousands of culture warriors and believers. TheLastStand.com. We're taking back June. June is Life Month, not Pride Month. We need your help. Go to TheLastStand.com. Get your ticket today. Use promo code Seth10, Seth10 for 10% off your tickets. Bring your youth group, bring your church, tell your friends. Downey, Southern California. Join me in taking back June on June 21st, 2025. TheLastStand.com. We'll see you there. So if the trans-affirming mother of a minor goes to the court and complains that her MAGA husband, or whatever, maybe he hates Trump, but he's just a Christian who loves Jesus. Maybe he's not. Maybe he gets drunk once a week, but he lives in reality the other 6 days, and he knows that there are only boys and girls, and he doesn't want to chop his son's family jewels off. He doesn't want to sterilize his son for life by injecting him with testosterone blockers and pumping him full of estrogen at 12 years old. Maybe he's a deadbeat dad and not even very involved, but he's not going to allow his son to be chemically castrated. And he's not going to call Sammy Sally. And the mother goes to the court in Colorado because her husband is referring to their child by their dead name because Sammy wants to be called Sally at the public school. And so the father now, if this becomes law in Colorado, could lose all visitation rights in custody. He could be convicted of child abuse. Child abuse. Because he calls his son Sam and says, "Hey, son, how are you? How are you doing?" Because he talks about his son to his friends and he says, "Yeah, my son Sam, he played a great game today." Bigot, child abuser, coercive control. That's what that would mean in the state of Colorado. You think that this ideology is going to go gently into that good night because Trump's in the White House? No. Like all wounded animals, they become dangerous when they're wounded. More dangerous. And by the way, like some of this stuff has already happened before. That there was a couple in Montana that they went and told their story on my friend Ali Bestucky's show. Do you remember this? Their daughter, I think it was a girl, thinks she's a dude, whatever. The hospital moves her to a different state where they can get away with gender affirming care for minors. And the couple, the mom and dad, went on Ali Bestucky's show to tell their story. And they were convicted with violating a gag order because they were talking about their own child who was being chemically castrated by the hospital and taken away. I've told this story the mom in California who appeared in a documentary by my friend Robbie Starbuck that I appeared in as well called The War on Children. And her daughter thinks she's a boy, starts using pronouns, school goes along with it, hides the gender identity, trans-identifying nature of her daughter from the mother because she thinks that she's a boy. CPS, she's taken, she goes to a state-run facility where she's treated as a boy. The mom doesn't know where her own daughter is. The daughter's a minor. She calls her mom, says, "I'm sorry, this is what's going on." The mom doesn't know where her daughter is, and the daughter walks in front of a train and kills herself. Okay, there's been other such cases around the country. There was a dad in Texas, Jeff Younger. Yeah, Jeff Younger. Go read his story online. Okay, a dad from Texas whose son or sons, I think he had twins, but at least one of them was chemically castrated as a minor, and the court ruled against the father and in favor of the trans-affirming mother. Okay, like I just gave you 3 stories off the top of my head. And I'm sure that we could research more right now and go find some more. Colorado's now saying, "Oh, it's not just that. It's that if you even refer to your son as he, that you're an abusive parent." What? I want to know what happens, when the state comes to take the kid because the dad isn't allowing the so-called gender affirming care. Like, you start thinking through this. Like, if states begin to pass these laws around the country, and it becomes a progressive sort of blue state coalition of, speaking truth to power, sticking it to the orange man or whatever. Like if this became law in Colorado, things could get bloody really quick. Like what if Jared Polis in Colorado signs this law and you got a lot of rancher dads, you got a lot of very conservative or Republican bleed red kind of patriots in Colorado, okay? Because, it's Colorado Springs and Denver. You know this, right? That are primarily responsible for turning Colorado so blue. That's what happens in most of these states that were used to be very conservative. The big cities just ruin the whole thing. What if some rancher dad who just, wasn't a great dad and his, kid was getting involved in trans forum blogs, communities online, because those communities are very dangerous. They're like, wee, and they just celebrate, these minors who think they have gender delusion. They really indoctrinate them into it. Tell them that you're right, you're actually another gender. And like, let's say one of these kids gets involved in one of these communities, but he's got like a rancher kind of bleed red patriot dad and then a kooky feminist mom who starts affirming her kid's gender delusions, and the dad refuses to go along with any of the treatment, refuses to call his son she or call his son by this new female name. And now he's actually stepping in and preventing any kind of puberty blockers from being used that the mom wants to pump their kid full of. What happens then? Play this out with me. Think through this. This bill becomes law. What happens? She goes to a court. She complains. CPS comes to take the kid. Right? But remember, it's for the kid's safety, right? That's what they always say, right? It's just all about the safety, right? Where does this go then from there? By the way, did you know the French Revolution had the Committee for Public Safety? The left has been using, yes, that's right, in 1790, 1791, 1792, 1793, the Jacobins, the radical Jacobins, the lefty French revolutionaries, they had a Committee for Public Safety. But it wasn't for ensuring public safety. They just used that phrase as a way to redefine the family, to arrest priests, to behead anyone that was standing against the insanity and chaos of the French Revolution that culminates with them beheading Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Okay. And creating a radically egalitarian utopia where everyone's equal. Okay. A lot of people died in the process of trying to pursue that utopia. The left always uses the language of, it's just for your safety that we're doing this, right? Like there was this clip of Nancy Pelosi. I think we might have played it on the show ages ago. We'll have to go find it. But this was 2 or 3 years ago, and she was speaking about how these stupid fundamentalist Christians, that they just didn't realize that their deeply held religious beliefs, right? The dogma lives strongly within them. It's preventing them from voting in what really is their best interest, which is, and then Nancy Pelosi goes to define what best interest is, which is women's rights, so, killing babies, gay rights and gun rights, right? So the only reason someone would oppose, like, taking people's guns, the only reason someone would oppose killing babies, the only reason someone would oppose the redefinition of the family is because of their Christianity. Well, actually, sort of fact check true, actually. Christian doctrine would support self-defense and the protection of babies in the family. And historically, we were the ones that did protect against all those revolutions. And she said, but if they could just see that what we're doing is in their best interest, right? It's typical, right? It's always the same playbook. We radical progressives, we're here for you. We're trying to protect your safety, your livelihood, your well-being. So CPS in Colorado comes to this rancher dad's house because the kooky, bat crazy mom, it reports her husband. What happens now? Play this out with me. I mean, if CPS comes to take my kid, they'd be met with a 12-gauge shotgun or an AR-15 on the front steps. And any good father would say the same thing. Now, people start to get this muddy because they say, are you saying there's no role for the state? No, I think there is a role for the state, right? I mean, the Bible says the state does not bear the sword in vain, that God has ordained and set up government for specific reasons. And so if you've got 2 alcoholic parents who are abusing or neglectful of their own children, then we all understand that the state has a role to play. Now, historically, the church would have been the institution on the front lines that would have provided safe haven and a community for those children, right? And in many cases, during different revivals across history, secular governments actually looked to and leaned almost exclusively on the local church to be the arms of mercy to those in need. Maybe because of broken families. Like that's what we should actually get back to, is that like CPS or like state-run entities that exist to come in and solve family issues and insanity to try to pick up the pieces of adults' choices, that would be taken care of by the local church. Like that's ideal. That's what we should get back to. There's so much more, but guys, we have to tell you about our just sole exclusive epic sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diaper Company, the pro-life, pro-family, pro-America, anti-woke diaper company. This is how we win, okay? We have to start shopping in alignment with our values. And I can't think of a better way to protect the unborn and the family than to defund all of the woke pro-abortion diaper companies. Most of the baby brands and diaper companies, they celebrate and fund abortion, which means they're helping fund the killing of their clientele base. Let's really defund them by not buying anything from them. Go to everylife.com, everylife.com. Use promo code Seth10 for 10% off your order. Everylife.com, promo code Seth10. From your diapers to your wipes to your non-toxic baby washes and shampoos, this is how we take back America. Every woke pro-abortion company dies out because people like you are willing to change your purchasing, spending habits to defund wokeness. My wife and I use Every Life. We love them. They're incredible. They give away diapers during disasters. They're believers. I know the founders. They're an incredible family. Go to everylife.com, promo code Seth10 for 10% off your first order and set up the subscription. Get it shipped right to the house. You don't even have to think about it. It's amazing. Everylife.com. Thank you, Every Life, for supporting the Seth Gruber Show. So I'm not saying there's no role whatsoever for the state, but it has to be in the proper lane. There has to be legitimate reason. And a dad calling his son he by his name is not a legitimate reason, because he's living in reality. He's living in truth. The transgender ideology is a lie. It's not true. It's not true that a man can be a woman. It's not true that a man can be trapped in a woman's body, except me when I was in my mother's uterus, except in the process of childbirth. It's not true. The gender bread is not true. It's a lie. The gender spectrum is not true. It's a lie. Your sex and your gender are determined from the moment of conception. Now, there are more effeminate men and there are more slightly masculine women who have maybe slightly more masculine traits than your average female. And there are men who have slightly more soft, feminine-like traits. But that doesn't mean that there's a gender spectrum and that boys can be girls. The whole ideology is a lie. And the thing that got Michael Knowles in trouble was saying that the entire ideology of transgenderism has to be eradicated from the public square. The ideology, the belief, from every segment of the culture and from our legal system, the ideology as it is has to be completely severed. It has to be completely surgically removed like a tumor with no traces of it left in our legal system or in our culture, because it's a lie. And it's not loving to lie to people, and it's not loving to allow people to live in lies. It's very dangerous. It's very harmful. It causes human heartache. It causes confusion. And all of society goes to hell in a handbasket. A society of emasculated liars is easy to control, says Theodore Dalrymple. And maybe that was always the point, right? That's the point of political correctness, is to force everyone to live by lies. Because when you go along with lies, even if you're not like living that lie out in your own life, but you go along with it and you stay silent, you give the lie quarter. When that lie is said at the lunchtime break or at Super Bowl Sunday or around the family dinner table, and you keep silent and you give credence to the lie, you begin to decay inside as a person. Because you're playing the role of a coward. And when you play a role long enough, you eventually become the character that you're portraying. You eventually will become the coward that you've been pretending or playing out in your day-to-day life for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Okay? So like our moral muscles have to be exercised, like our spiritual muscles. And if you don't exercise them in moments that call you to speak, you'll simply turn into the liar that you're portraying. Okay? That's why all of it matters. That's why all of it has to be eradicated from the culture. Colorado now is going to be sending this bill to the governor's desk. I mean, if that happens, and you know that the Colorado liberals are, yeah, like the safest they might be is when they're on that devil's lettuce, right? Because they're like, hey, man, everything's cool, man. Take another puff, man. Right? It's when they're not high on Haitian oregano that they're probably the most dangerous. I mean, like all of the radical libs in the Colorado legislature, all the radical judges, you think that they won't use this as a battering ram against not just Christian families, because if you're a really good Christian parent, your kids aren't gonna struggle with thinking they're the other gender anyways, right? Because of discipleship and catechizing your kids. But like normal common sense Americans who aren't believers, but they're just like the trans ideology is ridiculous. They could be liberals, right? Have you noticed the split between the feminists and the transgender movement, right? J.K. Rowling, she's like, I'm a feminist and I hate the trans people, right? Like, yeah, they could be a liberal feminist who's like, no, my boy is not a girl because that's not possible. What are you gonna do? You gonna come arrest the mom? You gonna come take the kids? You gonna sue the dad for child abuse because he's dead naming his kid? Does this end in bloodshed? Does this end in a violent firefight, like actual shooting happening one day between a rancher dad in Colorado who's like, hell no, you're not taking my kid, and CPS who's there to take the kid for their safety? Is that where this goes? It's hard to see that couldn't ever happen if this becomes law in Colorado. It's always about safety, though, right? Just the safety of the kids. This radical left-wing rainbow cult group on Facebook, they call themselves Rainbow Youth Center. Look at this. They posted out about this. They're calling it a Transgender Bill of Rights. Again, this is HB 251312. And they posted this on Facebook because they're telling people, come out and support this. Okay, this is the Rainbow Youth Center. Okay, they say keep Colorado a safe state. There it is. I told you. It's always just about safety, right? A safe state for trans people and their families, especially those coming from anti-trans states. Protect trans youth in Colorado schools. Defines and adds dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory acts under the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, do you understand that this has broader implications than merely the nuclear family? Do you understand that? They're celebrating this as an attempt to define and add dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory acts under the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act. This is the Rainbow Youth Center in Colorado. They're literally saying that they see this as way more powerful of a political cudgel than merely against a mother or father in their living room in their home. That, like, this could then mean that if you're a millennial working in the tech space at Salesforce in downtown Denver, and one of your colleagues at the desk over is a trans dude who dresses and thinks he's a girl, if you don't call him Mrs. or Frank Alice, you could be sued for discrimination. It's not just the father or the mother and their biological child. This could apply to anything in public life in Colorado. Do you see how quickly this becomes an Orwellian nightmare? I mean, George Orwell, by the way, I mean, do you know he wasn't like a conservative? Similarly, J.K. Rowling has probably become one of the most foremost voices in protecting girls against the trans ideology, and she's no conservative. Isn't that interesting how sometimes God raises up people to the church's shame, by the way, to the church's shame, that J.K. Rowling has more testicular fortitude and courage than most of the pulpits in America. Think about that for a second. Yeah, that's right. The feminist author of Harry Potter has more courage than most of the pastors behind the pulpits in American churches. And how do I know this, by the way? Because I'm in a unique position of having spoken at almost every state in America in 1 or 10 different churches. And I get the comments from online. There's not a church near me in my neighborhood. So I can't find a church anywhere near me in my city, in my county. That's not just not woke, but is like speaking about the issues courageously from a biblical worldview and framework. George Orwell wrote an essay called Politics and the English Language. Not 1984, though you should go read that. It was called Politics and the English Language. And he said political language has to consist largely of euphemism, question begging, and sheer cloudy vagueness. He said such phraseology is needed if one wants to name things without calling up mental pictures of them. Political language is designed to make lies sound truthful, murder respectable, and to give the appearance of solidity to pure wind. When did he write Politics in the English Language? I think it was 1946 or something like that. To give the appearance of solidity to pure wind. Which really just means we just have to have the courage to blow the whole charade over. Just blow the ghost away. It's just, it appears to be solid. It appears to be a threat. It appears to have the strength of revolution. But when enough people just stand up and blow it over, that's all. That's all. Just don't give credence or quarter to lies. Orwell was prescient. What did he say in 1984? The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. What did he say? In the end, the party would declare that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. The logic of their worldview demanded it, not merely the validity of opinion, but the very existence of an external reality was tacitly denied by their philosophy. The heresy of heresies was common sense. Do you see now? Do you see now? If you call your son he, you're a secular heretic, and you'll be treated as such. You'll be crucified in the public square. We will destroy your life for your heterodoxy, your cultural heterodoxy. The funny thing is George Orwell wrote 1984 as a warning, not a playbook, but it seems to have become a playbook from the radical left. But none of this is new. You understand that, right? From the Carthaginians and the Romans to the Ottoman Janissaries and Bolsheviks, from the Hitler Youth and jihadist indoctrination camps of modern times to the modern left today, the object is the same. Turn the hearts of children against their parents. That's it. If you can get them while they're young, if you can radicalize their minds, destroy their innocence, turn them into little tools for the revolution while they're young and kind of somewhat oblivious to the magnitude of what's happening to them, then they'll serve you forever. And they'll continue coming back to feed from that hand. Stella Morabito, she's a senior writer at The Federalist. I think she put this beautifully. I think this is one of the most like punch you in the face, pregnant sentences, but it's so simple. But it's so important. She said, if you abolish sex distinctions in law, you can abolish state recognition of biological family ties. I know, that's a heck of a statement. Let me say that again. If you abolish sex distinctions in law, you can abolish state recognition of biological family ties. And the state can regulate personal relationships and consolidate power as never before. Amen. Indeed. Indeed. If legally, in our law, there's no such thing anymore as a woman and a man, as a boy and a girl, and that we can know that, and that we have cognitive rational faculties, that we can reach that conclusion and know it to be true, then the laws that protect children, protect the family, protect parental rights and children's rights, they all begin to get changed as well. If marriage is no longer based on biological differences in sexual complementarity, then why should the definition of a parent be based on any of that either? You see, the state is now left to define what it means to be a parent. For the kid's own safety, remember. There's this insane story from just a few years ago in Norway. Just to tell you how quickly this could happen here. Okay. By the way, Australia just updated their speech codes. And it's looking like if our good friend and brother, Pastor Andrew Cedra, is preaching on homosexuality or is pastorally mentoring someone who doesn't want same-sex attractions, he could be arrested and the church could be shut down. This stuff's happening across the West. This story was from 2015. And a Christian family had 5 children taken away by the government for teaching that God punishes sin. Like a core Christian doctrine. Child welfare services in Norway, so this was 10 years ago, removed 5 Christian children from their parents' homes and placed them into foster care after the parents were accused of radicalizing and indoctrinating their children with Christianity. According to the British-based Christian Institute, Norway's Child Protection Services seized the 3 sons and 2 daughters of Ruth and Marius Bondaniru in mid-November 2015. Although the family wasn't quite sure at the time why their children were being taken away from them, their lawyer discovered that the parents were being charged with Christian indoctrination. Okay, there's more to the story, but when you redefine what it means to be human, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be married, and you ignore or deny the biological truths, the nature itself, your body parts, your chromosomes, your parts, which kind of clue you into what they're made for and what these relationships are geared towards. You deny the natural world, redefine everything, right? Like 1984, redefine every word, get rid of all the bugs. Then the state will now tell you, they will define what those things mean, what those institutions, what those concepts mean. And once the state does that, they can crack down on the family. They can exercise more control over the family. Is it possible that in the next few years, barring a Gavin Newsom president in 2028, or even with Trump in the White House, is it possible that children could still be being kidnapped from the home because one of the parents, what if both parents, this is interesting, what if both parents were opposed to the trans ideology, but the kid was being transed at a public high school or elementary school, or junior high school in Colorado if this bill becomes law? And the kid is complaining to his school mentor or school teacher, school counselor at the school, that he doesn't feel safe at home because both of his parents attend Brave Church in Denver, Colorado, one of our biggest supporting churches at White Rose. And they don't believe in the genderbread spectrum, and they don't feel safe because their parents won't call them by the opposite pronouns. Could the kid be removed from both parents? It's hard to see how that could not happen, given the language being used in House Bill 2513-12 in Colorado. Scary stuff. It's all about safety, though, right? It's not about safety. There's nothing safe about chemically castrating and sexually mutilating the next generation. It does great damage, not just biologically, not just you can shorten their lifespan and stunt their bone density, especially in young teenage girls whose bones will never reach their full density and hardness because of the drugs you're pumping them full of, not just physically and all this stuff, but psychologically as well. But of course they say if you don't affirm the transgender movement and identity, then it's conservatives and Christians who are killing trans kids, they say, because you're not affirming of their gender identity. So you're causing them to commit suicide, right? That their blood is on your hand, conservative movement, because you wouldn't affirm the genderbread spectrum. The opposite is true, as it always is with the radical left. The largest data set, on mental health following transgender intervention shows the absolute opposite. Did you know that? The data suggests that after transgender intervention, the patient has increased anxiety. Oh, shocker. Right, exactly. It makes sense. When you don't live in accordance with the creator's design, when you don't live in accordance with the telos of your body, and you try to defy that and remake yourself in your own image, and then be birthed anew, and then say you're dead naming me if you call me something else, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense that you would have increased anxiety. The largest data set and best research shows that those who undergo chemical and surgical transition are over 19 times more likely to commit suicide than the average person. Meaning, when you adopt the premises and live out the suggestions of the trans ideology, you're not less likely to kill yourself. You're 19 times more likely to kill yourself than the average person. We know that this ideology is poison. When it comes to youth, by the way, the vast majority, up to 98% on the high end, of adolescents who are allowed to go through puberty will reconcile with their God-given sex. From the best data set on this. 88 to 98% of adolescents who don't give themselves puberty blockers, who don't pump themselves full of opposite sex hormones, if left alone and not socially affirmed and not given surgical intervention, will reconcile with their God-given sex. And they'll say, wow, I'm glad that my parents didn't do that to me, or that society didn't allow that to happen to me. Leave the kids alone. There's no such thing as a trans kid, by the way. There are only groomer parents, groomer teachers, and groomer politicians. Amen, amen, and amen. That's all I've got to say today. Stand up. Speak up. Share this. Send it to your Colorado friends. Tag Jared Polis, gay married governor of Colorado. Strike a little godly fear into his heart. Churches, pastors in Colorado, are you speaking up about this? Are you warning your people about the danger that this represents to the family, which I think is God's idea, so I think you should defend it and speak up? Props and much love to our friends at Brave Church and Pastor Jeff Schwarzentraub. They've been fighting this stuff. They were aware of this before I was. Find yourself a church like that in Colorado, or leave a woke one that isn't involved in standing up for kids. This is our job. This is your job. Until next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.